This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 78, where we're talking about Luke Cage, season 1, episode 4, Step in the Arena.
You think I'm holding back? You think I'm holding back? I'm out to save you.
Welcome back, Defenders, to episode 4 of our Luke Cage coverage, Step in the Arena. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
I'm one of your other gladiators, John.
Rounding out the group of this threesome, I am Chris.
Surely that should be roundhousing out the group.
Oh.
Shouldn't it?
But the roundhouse kick at the very beginning did knock Luke Cage over, so let's not go there.
That's true. A powerful roundhouse kick. Welcome back to our coverage of Luke Cage. We're on to our 4th episode of the show so far. Third of the way through right now.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, and this is the big intro and creation of Luke Cage.
Yeah, big origin tale here.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for joining us, listeners, again for our coverage of Luke Cage. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, you can subscribe to us over at defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes to subscribe to us through iTunes, or you can pick us up through any good or evil podcast catcher just by searching for Defenders TV Podcast, or Luke Cage. Actually will probably come up when you search under that. If you want to send us any kind of feedback as you watch through the episodes, just email us at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com, or of course you can come over and join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast. With all that out of the way, what did you guys think of this episode?
Are you ready for flashbacks?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really, it was like flashback, no flashback, flashback, no flashback.
Exactly. Yeah. We were looking forward to this one, though.
This was good, yeah. I liked that. It certainly took away from the big dig.
I got that.
Getting them out of the hole that had been created by Cottonmouth's bazooka.
That's true. At least we knew from the start that Luke Cage was alive. I was speculating on the last episode that maybe this was the end of Luke Cage and we wouldn't return to him until episode 13. But,
Yeah. Exactly. Like, it was part of me thinking that this kind of flashback was him telling Connie why he could lift those big chunks of concrete. So I was a bit, it felt a bit strange when he says, you can't tell them what you saw. So it wasn't, but I was thinking as we watched it that it was that kind of flashback where, originally he's unconscious, his mind's floating back to that, but then once he's awake helping Connie, that as he's moving all this stuff, he's just recounting the tale to her, because she's like, what? She's that cat again. I mean, like, she's the cat gif. I mean, she's going, oh, surprise cat, you know?
we definitely need to do some video podcasting. Anyway, before we get into our spoiler-filled coverage of Luke Cage, episode 4.
Can I ask one question before we do? Does everyone feel it was a faithful adaptation?
I think we'll get into that when we get into the episode discussion.
Okay, that's fair.
But this is a spoiler-filled discussion. If you haven't seen the episode 4 of Luke Cage, Step in the Arena, go off and watch it and then come back to us and we'll spoil it from here on in.
Are you back? Have you gone? Are you there?
Welcome back.
Hey!
So this episode of Luke Cage was written by Charles Murray. Charles has done some work over on Sons of Anarchy and also wrote for 2 Star Wars cartoon series, for the Clone Wars and for Rebels. So he does have a hand in the Star Wars universe as well.
So Disney Strikes Again?
Exactly.
Or the Disney Strikes Back? Or Return of the Disney?
Return of the Disney. The episode itself was directed by Vincenzo Natali, who is known for a lot more creepy horror movies. He's done The Cube and he's done Splice. Splice was creepy and weird as hell. I remember that.
And what's the Cube?
Cube is another creepy, weird sci-fi movie.
They were trapped in a cube. Literally, actually. It's 4 or 5 people wake up in a cube.
With,
No, not the one with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
No.
But Splice is worse.
Splice is weird.
Splice is just really, it's a fantastic film, but don't watch it with your family or your partner.
No, definitely
It's
not.
just kind of, or if you are a mother or a father, do not watch it with your kids.
That's the one I'd recommend most.
Yeah.
Don't watch it with your kids. Anyway, John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with this episode of Luke Cage?
Sure. As Luke Cage and Connie are trapped in the rubble of the collapsed building, Luke begins to recall his earlier life and the origin of his super strength and powers. Originally known as Carl Lucas, a former law enforcement officer, he is sent to Seagate Prison, a private prison facility, for a crime of Is it pride, power, or pussy? Closed down and angry, Lucas begins to open up to Squabbles, another inmate, and the psychiatrist, Dr. Reva Connors, who runs the Inmate Anger Management Program. She has her work cut out. Seagate, however, is not all it appears to be, and a prison guard named Albert Rackham forces Cole to become part of an illegal underground gladiatorial fight scene. Lucas attempts to rebel against Rackham with the help of Reva and Squabbles, but after finding out Cole's plan, Rackham has Squabbles killed and sends inmates Shades and Comanche to beat him down. Suffering fatal injuries, Reva begs prison doctor Noah Bernstein to use an untested medical experiment on Carl Lucas to help him recover. However, the experimental treatment is sabotaged by Rackham, but in doing so, the procedure confers powers and abilities on Carl Lucas. With cuffs and tiara, Lucas escapes from Seagate and meets up with Reva, who alters his records, and he renames himself Luke Cage. Back in New York under the rubble, Luke Cage helps Connie to safety, and in doing so becomes a local hero.
I'm Luke Cage.
With no tiara or cuffs. They're cool. I want them. I could rock them down the high street.
I think we're definitely going to be talking about the costume as we go.
What
through the
costume?
episode.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I really could rock that kind of tiara.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
like it's proper masculine.
The connection around his jaw, it was just like, it looked like a full-on, you know those kiddie helmets? It's like,
I think we should really get into this as our first point. The way we cover our episodes, as you know, listeners, if you've been joining us for Luke Cage coverage, is we take 5 points and we discuss them, each taking 5 points. Usually, I think we're going to have a lot of crossover in our points in this episode, and one of the points, obviously, is we get to see Luke Cage's costume from the 70s in full form in this episode.
Yeah, this is great.
Totally not expecting it. I'd seen the clip, obviously, of him with the tiara on. Kind of suspected that we'd get the arm bracelets or the
cuffs,
wrist
yeah.
guards, the cuffs.
Bracers.
Kind of expected that we'd see that from the clips that we'd seen in the trailer. Did not expect the yellow shirt and the pants.
the blouse.
The
It was a
blouse.
full-on
Yeah,
blouse. That was like, not
proper
even, that was a
blouse.
woman's blouse that he threw on.
Absolutely, and loved it. Loved the moment when he sees himself in the reflection in the car and goes, "You look like a damn fool," and then takes off the tiara and doesn't change anything else. That's what he thinks looks ridiculous. The whole outfit, hilarious moment.
Do you think he had his little booties on as well, which we
think-
didn't see?
I think he might have if he found a pair of
Maybe.
boots somewhere. But I thought it was really cool to be able to do this. We've talked about how serious the show has been so far. There was a little bit of humor in the first and second episodes, a little bit, not a huge amount. This was full on. Let's have a bit of fun with the costume that could have been his costume for the entire series had it been in somebody else's hands.
Look, this is fantastic that they were able to work it in. And I mean, it did. It looked cool. The fact that he had his beard as well and his hair was all grown out, then it looked absolutely like the Luke Cage from the comics.
Yeah.
Just so good. And I mean, him stepping out of that kind of experimental chamber, after it had been sabotaged, and he's got the tiara on and the cuffs. Like, great. Really, really good. Props to the writers and creators for getting this into this series. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and for me, I really have to say, like, I know a lot of people wouldn't have got this reference, and I think that's fair. You still gotta remember that Marvel and Netflix, so the Chio Coker, the Stephen DeKnight, and as well probably Kevin Feige's in there. They're all in there. This is still Marvel. So I think the great thing is that this is built for us, and this was a fair 60 seconds, 90 seconds of pure fan homage.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like looking at it going, that's a bit strange.
Yes.
Why is a man dressing in a girl's blouse?
Uh-huh.
Who cares?
But I like that they
It's
gave
a,
it.
yeah,
They gave
they,
a good explanation for it. He's broken out of prison. He has no shirt on because of the experiment that's been done on him. He swam across the bay to get there. First clothes he finds happens to be a woman's yellow blouse, and
Sure.
he puts it on.
Sure.
You know,
He
makes
did-
sense. But I love that it laid out so well,
Yeah.
exactly like the costume from the 70s.
he did
Very
have
cool.
the very much the Hulk, the old 70s Hulk ripped shorts
Yep.
going on. And I was like, oh, please let them be purple. We never see what color.
No.
They look a tan grayish.
They look kind of like jeans. I
Yeah.
think a little bit like jeans.
So basically, he's a tall, 6 foot something man wearing a bright yellow blouse,
Mm-hmm.
a tiara, bracelets, short shorts,
Yep.
hot pants. It was really fantastic. It was great to see that they paid homage, whichever way you want to pronounce it, to this very camp character costume.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really enjoyed
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Chris, with that over, do you want to take us on to your first points?
I do. So I want to talk about the experiment straight out. It's not really quite clear what's going on in the experiment.
Yes.
We know there are experiments.
Yes.
But is this an experiment? Is this not? This was apparently just supposed to make him heal faster, according to Riva. That was it.
Yeah.
So where the extended strength and stuff comes from, that'll start leading extra questions. So is this the same Noah Burstein's experiments that were in the comics that were trying to recreate the super soldier, Captain America? The formula that made Captain America Captain America. And if we think about timeline here, this is probably happening prior to Cap being found at the end of Captain America.
Interesting, yeah.
It could be. It would make
yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
I think, just based on what we know.
It's possible.
And so they're usually good at existing in a side-by-side world. So that's why I do think this is kind of what we're getting here. So I said, this is the questions I have. We see a very nice Easter egg back to Jessica Jones regarding this experiment in a yellow USB.
That's right.
That Riva has. This is the one that has everything Kilgrave related experiments on
more.
it. And more. Is this the super soldier serum experiment? And Kilgrave was actually part of that. There was an extension. So give not just power of body, but power of mind. For a flashback episode that's supposed to answer all your questions, this just left me with like, what?
Okay. So obviously this was another one of the big points of the episode, but there's two things going on. I think there's a conversation between Riva and Luke that's happening about experiments that are taking place within the facility. There's rumors that one of the inmates has had experiments done on him and that got his sentence cut short, which is actually the storyline in Luke Cage comic book. That's why he takes the experiments under Burstein. He's going to take the experiments so that he can get a shorter sentence and get out of the prison early. So that's one side of the experiments. What I think the other side is just a healing thing that the Doctor has built. So I think that's an experimental form of science that he's created to heal Luke Cage, but I don't think it's connected to the experiments. I don't think he pushes people into that to give them shorter sentences, but he may have done it to build it at one point. The other side of it, the experiments that have been done on the inmates in the prison, I think that's all the information that Riva has on that USB stick, along with Kilgrave's experiments.
But that doesn't explain the kids unless the kids were at Seagate.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's all about Seagate or whether there's a bigger power at play here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose for me, there was also the question, and Luke Cage or Carl Lucas asked this, which was, where are the people that he's beaten down? Where have they gone? They seem to be vanishing. And the thing is as well, it kind of links into a few of my other points, but, so I'm just going to throw it out here as well. There was that moment where, the camera focuses on what looks like a security camera or even just a TV camera, looking at this ring that the fighting is taking place on. Like, who is behind that? Because the prison guard Albert Rackham is there. He's at the ringside, with other guards. So who is it? Is it the Doctor, or is it someone else? Or is it just a security camera?
I think they just quickly referenced that it was a camera that's connected to the internet. So it seems like they're selling these fights. That's where some of the extra money's coming from. They're selling these fights on the internet between inmates, kind of like, I don't know, like the homeless people fights that used to happen in the 90s,
Okay, I thought there was more to it than that. I didn't catch that at all.
But there could be more people behind it, though.
But then as well, Riva is very much adamant that there are no experiments taking place in Seagate. She kind of promises that to Luke. So, it gets a bit confusing as to actually what the hell is going on in this episode. And I mean, it is one of the things which it's a faithful kind of origin, but it asks way too many questions, and hopefully we'll get answers to them over the course of the rest of the season. But I mean, to what extent they're going to start focusing on Riva's story, or is it going to be Luke Cage's from now on?
Yeah.
Because if this is all we get, it's a bit of a strange episode,
Right.
quite frankly, to have all these kind of little mysteries going on in a backstory, which maybe don't get fully played out. Like there is that moment in the end credits as well, which you spotted, where there is the young Carl Lucas, the young Willis Stryker, that come up on the end credits of this episode, yet they're not in this episode.
Yeah.
So I like that's a bit of a mystery in itself, or is it just the wrong credits that were rolling? I mean, it's really difficult to know. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily see why there needs to be that amount of mystery in this episode,
right?
Unless they ultimately play it out along the next set of episodes.
The one thing to remember is Dr. Bernstein in the comics became a supporting character throughout the comics.
Right.
So this may not be the last we see of him. We saw him in Seagate, and now maybe in, say, let's say episode 6 or 7, that's threaded back through.
Maybe, yeah.
In terms of, and then he could be one of the big bads as part of the Defenders piece. So he is running experiments that created, or he's overseeing experiments, or he's one arm of the experiments that also the other arm created Kilgrave.
Yeah.
One arm created a superpowered inmates. One arm created Captain America.
Right.
For example.
Yeah, possibly. Like they're very at great pains to point out that he is still alive after the experiments and that Rackham isn't. So it's very specific as Carl Lucas leaves the prison that the scientist is still alive, but Albert Rackham doesn't look alive.
Yes, he doesn't look alive.
Yeah.
That was my bit.
We've been caught before on that.
Yeah, I know. But like, he just had glass in his face.
But he's right there by the explosion.
Yeah.
So, like, because Noah Bernstein goes back to the console as it starts to charge up, I presume, to try and bring it down, the levels or the power or whatever. Whereas Albert Rackham is right there as the whole thing blows.
Yeah.
What if Rackham's the superpowered individual
never
for the
know.
rest of the series?
You never
He
know.
got powers as well. He was a cop. He liked the body blows. That can be a joke when the later fight as well. But he got powered and he has bits of glass embedded in himself. He's not the real. So Diamondback, who we mentioned, isn't the real Diamondback. Rackham is.
Interesting.
Because he had glass all down his back that looks like diamonds.
You never know.
Could be. That's a really good theory.
Interesting idea. We will definitely check out that one as we go.
It's not going to work out, I know, but like, let me go with my theories.
Absolutely. But let's lay this story out pretty quickly. Okay, so obviously we've watched every episode of Jessica Jones, right? We've got this show here, and now we're seeing the backstory of Reva. So let's just put it together. So obviously spoilers here for Jessica Jones. If you haven't watched that, again, you probably have to turn off this podcast, go back, watch it, and come back, because this spoils pretty much the entire arc of Jessica Jones, right? So what we know is Carl Lucas went to prison, met a lady there called Reva, who was working with the doctor, right?
Yeah.
They eventually ended off getting together, hooking up. She gets killed by Kilgrave to take this USB stick that has all of his information and others on it, is what he says in the show. There's other information on it, other experimentation that's on it, right? And at the end of the series, that USB stick is handed to Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
With all of the information on it, but she doesn't look it up. At the
That
end,
we know
by
of.
the end of the series,
Yeah.
she hasn't researched exactly what's on that USB stick. So that possibly connects into the Defenders.
Yep.
That's the next big arc that's going to happen, is what's on the USB stick, who is controlling everything that's going on. So there is already an explanation in world, in universe, in the Netflix shows so far as to what all this backstory is. But you kind of need to connect it all backwards,
Yes.
I suppose, is part of the problem.
You
right?
will have had to watch Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and understood and track back a small USB. So this could be something very small that is kind of like for people who do watch these shows eagle-eyed. But it's also just, they hopefully will give more than just these small pieces of information.
Yeah.
I think that's the key, as the writers and directors need to do. Otherwise, it is only people like us three and our listeners and the guys in the groups who kind of meticulously look at these and analyze these shows.
Yeah.
Who would really go, oh yeah, you remember the yellow? Like, it's more, I know my mother, my sister, my girlfriend will not have gone, oh, that's the yellow USB from Jessica Jones.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to be honest with you, at that opening scene when they're sitting in the support group in the anger management group, I didn't even know that was Riva to begin with. It took me a couple of minutes to get my head in around that. We saw her a little bit in Jessica Jones, but not enough to be able to pick her out of a crowd until it was mentioned that she's Dr. Connors.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think as well, at this moment in time, we don't know the importance of them showing that yellow USB. Is it just simply there to reference that, look, this is Riva and this is the same person in Jessica Jones? You know, I mean, she has the moment where she says, I didn't always used to be a doctor. So what was she? Is she more of a hacker in that she's hacked different, computer systems in order to get research information or whatever? Because at that moment, she's effectively doctoring and deleting aspects of Carl Lucas's records so that he can escape, and then he obviously changes his name. So, and maybe this is where this element starts off. But that's the thing, at this moment in time, it's difficult to be able to judge the importance of that 1 second of seeing the yellow USB key.
Yeah.
It absolutely ties it back to Jessica Jones, but only in the sense that that's Riva.
Well, she does say that she's going to tell him about the experiment, so she knows more. I'm also wondering, is it connected to her brother? Is the reason why she got this job in Seagate because her brother, who she says was in prison and lost himself, she knew he was in trouble, she couldn't save him. Is this her attempt at saving other people who are in the same kind of circumstance as her brother? Was he ill-treated? Did he go through the Fight Club thing and went through the experimentation and was killed because of that, and she couldn't help him out? Is that why she's doing this investigation? Is that why she's gone through this whole process? You know, there's definitely some intriguing other elements about Riva. I don't honestly think it's the last we're going to see of Riva. I think we are going to see a bit more backstory, but there is already enough there that it's connecting to this storyline that we've already seen throughout Jessica Jones, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I say, but I still think it doesn't tie in with the first 3 episodes. You know, the first 3 episodes are about Harlem. It's about Cottonmouth. It's about Diamondback. I suppose ultimately it will depend on when we see Diamondback and who it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great theory that Chris has got, this potential that it is actually the prison guard Rackham. It could also be, you know, Willis Stryker. As I say, the end credits had young or boy Willis Stryker, yet he's not in there.
Yeah.
So I think until certain things play out, we may not understand fully the importance of some of the elements here. I mean, to an extent, we don't even know what crime he's in there for. You know, he's a police officer. And I suppose actually this comes back to what Chris said about, you know, is it faithful to the origin? And I think it is, quite frankly, but they have done some alterations to it, which will be interesting to see whether that's in service of a larger arc connecting to Jessica Jones and the Defenders or not. But I mean, at this moment in time, I also want to know more about Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I not really fully want to go back to Jessica Jones or you know, as long as they don't do the thing that, you know, Joss Whedon complained about with regards to Age of Ultron, where they're having to put in stuff to feed a bigger story, which is fantastic, but it can't come at the expense of actually this Luke Cage story either.
Of course. But I think his story and Riva's story are integral to why Luke is who he is. So it's cool to see a bit of backstory.
So it's more to do with the USB key. I mean, absolutely, Luke and Riva's thing is linked together, but it's to do with these other aspects of if it is connecting in with Jessica Jones that deeply or whatever. So and within an origin, you know, unless we're going to start getting more origins throughout that, it becomes more difficult, I think.
Which kind of brings me on to my next point. I liked the other elements that we did learn about Luke in this episode. I loved this kind of twist on it, that he was a former law enforcement officer. The fact that for whatever crime he's gotten convicted for, he's gotten 90 years in prison for it, so quite serious. But there is the call out from Rackham that this crime, whatever it is, wouldn't get you 90 years in prison unless you've done something to really piss off somebody in a high position, you know? That's quite interesting. I wonder who that is supposed to be. Who is the person that he's hit up against high enough that would have got him in prison for 90 years? That's quite interesting. I also love the setup at the beginning of the episode showing you that he isn't powered. The fact that he gets a punch in the stomach at the beginning of the episode, showing that he's not powered, because we've seen him getting punched and shot in the stomach all the way throughout the season. The next thing you see him do is punching the walls in the prison, showing that that he again isn't powered because he's got blood all over him. I like those little touches just to show you that we're in a different place here. This is a flashback. This is before he gets the powers. So good to know. We knew there was going to be an episode that was going to be a flashback to where he got the powers, but it's nice to have this kind of setup at the beginning, just in case you're not aware of that, I suppose.
Well, the other thing was the big beard and the hair kind of gave it away. It was like, yeah, remember how Luke Cage, like 30 seconds ago, was like bald with a really trimmed beard? Well, look at him now.
Exactly.
I like the fact that it was all kind of keyed back to Seagate. Like, this is in the comic books, a quite notorious prison.
Yeah.
You hear about it quite a lot. It is based in Georgia. We know that now. He originally said Georgia was one of his hometown, or where he grew up. So we know that he could have been a cop there.
Yeah,
I do like the fact as well, they have some of the history there as well. So in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Justin Hammer apparently went there. So I'm wondering if we get another flashback, will we see Justin Hammer just waltzing past?
Very
Could
possible.
be interesting.
Very possible.
Especially when we think of Shades and his crew were in that same prison, and now potentially Shades and his crew with Diamondback are selling weapons as well. Justin Hammond weapons, etc.
Very true, yeah.
Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, he ended up at the end of Iron Man 3 in Seagate as well. And then in one of the one-shots, I think it's Hail the King.
Yes.
Hail to the King. He was broken free by the 10 the 10 rings. So again, I thought that was there's lots of history there. And I think by adding things in, like the comment Reva makes about, there's no millionaire in the basement. There's no, Tupac didn't die. It didn't die and he's alive on this island.
Yeah.
All these little things that give it a bit more history, because again, it's the people like us that kind of know that this is a place that's notorious with kind of the universe, where some other people are kind of going, oh, it's just like Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And they kind of play on these things as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But is Reva lying? Because she says there's no experiments and so on, yet there obviously is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tupac is alive.
Yeah, but I mean, so, like, and like Luke Cage calls that out to her in the hotel room. So, exactly. I mean, it could still be that there is, it is a private institution as well. It's not a public prison.
That's right.
So, that millionaire and who that person is, it could quite easily be, a much bigger force. It could be the Hand.
Yeah. No, honestly.
If Defenders and that image released in San Diego Comic-Con's to be believed, with the Hand kind of like
grasping the title,
then
all the Defenders,
then there is this aspect as well.
No, and I agree with you. I think it would be. I had a look and I was trying to do a bit of digging around a millionaire, or like either a villain millionaire, kind of like Osborn type thing, where like, okay, maybe it was the Thunderbolts will run out of there. Thunderbolts being an Avengers style group of villains that were publicly facing good, were really bad in the comic books.
Were the Marvel version of Suicide Squad, basically?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe like an Osborn or something like that. Nope, no reference. So this is something that's being created for the MCU, that line. And it was too deliberate of a line.
It was. Like, she's effectively saying that there are loads of rumours about this place. You've all heard the ghost stories. You've all heard about this. You've all heard about that. But this line, the millionaire locked up in a dungeon of the prison, did seem like there must be some truth in it. Are you sure you don't mean that it's the Mandarin, the millionaire locked up in the basement, or Justin Hammer, another millionaire sent to Seagate Prison?
Yeah.
Is there a reference there that we're missing? Let us know, listeners. Send us just come over to the group on Facebook. Let us know if you think there's some connection there to the Millionaire in the Basement or the Millionaire in the Dungeon. Because I can't pick it up. I can't see exactly what the reference is. And we're too early in the broadcast of Luke Cage on Netflix for anybody else to have put it up on the internet for us to find it yet. But anyway, with that, John, do you want to take us on to your next point?
Yeah, I want to bring out Albert Rackham from The Shadows, the prison guard. Like, really, really, I think a good villain here. Like, he is absolutely sadistic and he's manipulative. You know, I love that moment where, you know, in both cases, he's the one trying to find out and learn about Luke Cage. And where he gets another inmate stabbed by effectively his henchmen, who are inmates as well, which is Shades and Comanche, which is the other member here, who I don't think we've seen outside of the prison. This is the first view of Comanche, but he uses Luke's relationships to his own ends in order to force Luke Cage to become this gladiator in this sort of illegal underground boxing ring and fight ring down in Seagate Prison.
Yeah.
And even then, when he finds out that Luke Cage has feelings for Reva, and he goes, you know, that wasn't wise, letting me know that there's two people in here that you care for. Like, really, really good. I must say, I love the threat that he brought to Luke Cage, because I think as well, just because, you know, it's before he's superpowered. So it's really interesting seeing that vulnerable side to Luke Cage or you know, Carl Lewis.
Yeah.
Because he is vulnerable. He has these weaknesses. Apart from the physical weaknesses that he has, I mean, he's still pretty strong, but he can still get taken down. That weakness of his attachment to other people is still there, probably now that he's got the unbreakable skin. And, you know, again, we were talking about it in the last podcast about, you know, he's surrounded by death. And here, Squabbles is killed because of him, because he's trying to escape this enforced fighter role. And Squabbles is unfortunately at the wrong end of Albert Rackham here. So really enjoyed this portrayal here of this prison guard who comes from the origin as well. And I just played really malevolently here in this tale.
Yeah, I love this actor. I remember him from Generation Kill as well. He's got a real presence about him. We've said that word so many times, but he's got that kind of aggression underneath, where he knows he's in the right. He knows he's able to control everything around him. He seems like the man in power here in Seagate Prison, and is controlling everything, all the way through from, again, having some other inmate shivved, to get Luke on side. That was really tough. I'm kind of going, who was the other inmate? Who was the guy that just got like stabbed repeatedly 15 times? Just because he wanted to get to Luke. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, Albert Rackham's played by Chance Kelly, who was in Generation Kill, which was by the creators of The Wire. So again, even Dr. Noah Bernstein, who's played by Michael Kostroff, he was the lawyer for Stringer Bell.
That's right.
in The Wire as well. So again, a few little connections here through to The Wire, or the creators of Wire within this show.
Yeah, it's really cool to see these connections to the other shows from The Wire and from Generation Kill. So it's just a great actor. Really, really enjoyed him in this part.
Have to agree. But I'm going to hijack them in on this point, because I want to talk about another great actor. Squabbles.
Yes.
Reggie.
Yes.
What? I think this was an amazing little, out of nowhere, buddy kind of, like, he's a cheeky kind of guy. I wasn't expecting to like him. I thought it was just going to be another kind of, very much what he was, a walk-in character.
Yeah.
But he's a memorable walk-in character for this episode.
Absolutely great, yeah.
Everything from the first conversation after they get out of the workshop.
The anger management workshop.
The anger management workshop with Reva, where he kind of walks up to him and he's like, talks about just kind of going, why can't you make other friends? Because they're all like you.
Exactly. I thought
I
that
was
was
like,
great.
it was just a
Great
nice
line.
little humorous jab.
Yeah.
And you get the wry smile back from Carl Lucas as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just brilliant. And it was a nice shot as well. Mm-hmm. The better part was the discussion around Bruce Lee versus Jet Li.
Ah, superb.
And when they're training, brilliant. It kind of brought it back to the 70s bit, to the Kung Fu. My Fu is better than your Fu.
And to be honest, Carl Lucas is absolutely right. You never choose Jet Li over Bruce Lee. What's wrong with him?
Yeah.
Sorry? Huh? No. I'm completely with Reggie here.
Oh my God, this is another Team Iron Man versus Team Cap.
And I'm just a big John Woo fan.
Oh.
Love John Woo, but
Yeah.
but he can't do martial arts to save his life.
But I love the little dig. You're not in charge of my training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely great.
You can't
love
train
that.
me.
It was nice to see him as a character who had a pivotal piece in this origin. If they hadn't have become friends, Luke or Carl Lucas wouldn't have. He wouldn't have cared, and
Yeah.
he wouldn't have gone into the fighting ring, which basically would have left him there rotting in jail for 90 years.
Absolutely. And once again, for Luke, to mention your point from the last episode, Chris, once again, if Luke hadn't got involved in Squabble's life, Squabbles probably would have been alive. He's survived many, many years in prison over and over again.
Yeah.
And this time he happens to befriend Carl Lucas and gets killed for it.
No, and I think that's, and so you know the way we always try and find common threads, and so one of them being Whiskey Watch and Book Watch. I have to say that's 2 episodes now with pretty much no books, but I think the common thread is death in this series.
so.
It's every defining moment of Luke Cage's life has been around a death of some kind. And I think probably we still don't know why he went to jail. My gut tells me he was a cop, someone got shot. Like, it will either be a kid got shot or his partner got shot and died. And the kid won just because that makes things even worse for him. Mm-hmm. But like, it would be something like that caused him, or his...
Or prize, power, and pussy.
That, exactly. That's what happened to him.
I'm so glad the swear jar is back in play.
But as well, I mean, because I think in the comic, it's drugs planted on him. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to just be the assumed crime here, and we'll never find out, or, you know, is it going to play out later? Again, it's one of those episodes for me that I think will probably be better moving on. As things,
Yes. As they answer more and more questions. That's a lot of death in 4 episodes.
Yeah. It's one death an episode, and
Yeah.
one death connected with Luke, pretty much, per episode.
Yeah.
Someone he worked with in the first episode, Pop in the second episode, third episode was Chico, and then this episode now we have
Reggie.
Squabbles. So yeah,
I think it's interesting. I just don't want them to, like, by the end of the series, we've still got pretty much 9 episodes left. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of characters. He is the Black Widow. And by Black Widow, I don't mean Scarlett Johansson, by the way, guys. I'm not talking about Natasha Romanoff. Mm-hmm. By Black Widow, I mean there's a history behind that name in terms of a lady who murdered many, many husbands, but always was just surrounded by death.
yes, yeah,
And it wasn't her fault, of course, but she actually did. All these deaths have been fought. And I think when you have a man who is super strong and unbreakable, how do you break him?
kill the people around him.
You break the will.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like every death now is going to be hanging on him. So we now know Reggie was already hanging on him.
Yeah.
Reva's hanging on him. Pops is hanging on top of him. Like all these will start adding up. And I do wonder, is that potentially what we'll see at the very end of the series? A very broken Luke Cage.
Or he's going to rebound from it, one or the other.
Exactly.
Definitely. The other thing I absolutely loved about this, and this is one of my other points with Squabbles, is the discussion about Lisa Bonet from The Cosby Show. Just thought that was absolutely hilarious. So you got a much older guy. And again, a nice little connection here because the other best friend we've seen of Luke is Pop. And he was significantly older than Luke, you know. I like that he's attached himself to someone he can learn something from and can teach him the ropes. But this whole idea of Squabble sitting in prison looking at a TV guide from, 10, 15 years ago going, doesn't Lisa Bonet look amazing? Isn't she absolutely gorgeous? And he's going, have you not seen any women from the outside world? Have you not seen Beyonce yet? Have you seen her daughter? Her daughter's amazing looking as well. She's probably gone a little bit too old for you now, Squabbles, you know? But Lisa Bonet is still gorgeous. I know that. Loads of people still love her. She's was married to Lenny Kravitz, but I love that little discussion between the two. And I think that's very good fun. And yeah, Squabbles R.I.P.
Yeah.
So, but in better news, John.
Yes, my next point is that Genghis Connie, is alive.
Yes.
She's only got a hurt leg or a broken leg or something, but like, it's so good that she's alive. I just like her interaction with Luke. Like both of them, again, she's an older woman. And in this case, it's Luke, it's almost, you know, that friendship. You can sense it there in his protective nature towards her. But I love the fact that he has to reveal his super strength and so on to her. And he just turns to her and says, the best way I can put this is, I'm strong. And like, as he lifts a ton of reinforced concrete to try and get them out the way. The fact that he rescues her, brings her to safety. And kind of one of the things we were talking about last week was, you know, how public is this going to be? I love that his fist comes through the concrete, through the rubble of Genghis Connie's, and you've got not only the fire department there, but there's a guy with a TV camera pointed right at him. There's the spotlights on him, and also then there's Misty Knight there as well. He turns around at the end and goes, I'm Luke Cage. Here is your local hero. Really, really good, and all very, very public, and like that will be like fantastic for when that sweet picture frame in Cottonmouth's office turns around and the TV shows Luke Cage there still alive after his bazooka shenanigans. Like, I really like this, but for me, I'm so glad that Genghis Connie is alive. Hopefully she can rebuild.
Absolutely. And that scene is, we talked about it just before recording the episode, but that scene is definitely a reference to Tony Stark's Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
That moment right at the end of Iron Man 1 where he stands in front of the TV cameras at the press conference and goes, I'm Iron Man. This is Luke Cage going, I'm Luke Cage. I'm the guy now. So, yeah, I really like that little touch there as well.
Yet it's not quite like Iron Man in that he is still hiding his true name, which is Carl Lucas.
Yeah.
And that I kind of like, is that yes, he's absolutely public. He's out there. He's Luke Cage. Cottonmouth knows him as Luke Cage. So does, so did, I should say, Pop, but he is Carl Lucas. And again, that mysterious Willis Stryker and Carl Lucas, the young boys in the credits. Will Stryker knows that he's Carl Lucas, so when his face comes public, those people that used to know him as Carl Lucas will suddenly know he's where he is.
Absolutely.
That's another interesting thing that will develop from this. I'm theorizing. Yeah.
I did like the fact that end, I am Luke Cage. I was very much expecting to be, my name is Luke Cage, and I am Power Man. just to completely rip off Iron Man.
Yeah.
And yeah, so obviously I'm very happy to see Connie alive. But I think the bit that I did like, which kind of ties in, is because he goes, I am Luke. I am Luke. I am Groot. We now know where he got Luke from.
Yes, that was quite interesting.
That was it. Luke came from the Bible verse that he soliloquized, like, almost. On the bed beside Reva, giving the origin of the
There's the book. There's the Bible.
Oh, yeah, maybe. We didn't see it, but yeah, no.
But he quotes from the Bible.
He quotes from the Bible.
Yeah, no.
Luke 4, verse 18.
Wow, okay, I missed that. The actual first thing. I thought you might know it off by the top of your head.
Basically is, any man that thinks he's free can never be caged, effectively, or locked up, or so they're always a free man, but he uses the cage instead.
Yeah. I would have, it would have been really bad. Is like, my name is Luke Freeman. You're like, not as catchy.
No, definitely.
No,
Cage works.
A bit
Plus
too on the nose, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Plus, there's Gordon Freeman, so
yes,
you
there's
can't
only one
mess
Freeman.
with there's only one Freeman.
Okay, so with our Freeman discussions coming to an end, Derek, do you have a point?
I do, yes. My final point is actually normally my first point each episode has been about the song being used in the episode. But such a big amount of time was spent in this episode within the arena. It was pretty obvious what the title of this episode, Step in the Arena by Gangstar again, what it was referencing. It was referencing the fact that Luke is going to be taking on all comers in this episode. He's going to be building up to the fight, and he would be taking down people left, right, and center. The biggest part of this for me is the fact that it's showing where Luke is getting his other superpower from, or his other ability from. So obviously he gets healed. He gets his unbreakable skin and bulletproof skin from the experiment that happens. But without this training that he gets in the arena, caused by Rackham sending him in there, he wouldn't be able to use his powers the way he does. He wouldn't be able to knock people out of the way he does. He wouldn't be able to beat them down the way he does. So the training that he gets for months, apparently, fighting in this ring,
from Squabbles,
and also from actually being in the ring, because Squabbles kind of leaves him alone after a while. And he just goes in and beats the hell out of everybody left, right, and center. Yeah. This is what gives him his street fighting ability.
Yeah, and I mean, he's pretty brutal as well. Like, Squabbles actually questions him that, you've changed. You're becoming too violent. And I wonder if that's when that pulls him out of doing Rackham's work, effectively making him a lot of money on the betting, and looks then to try and build the evidence, like he says, to show that Rackham has got this illegal event taking place, and, to try and get himself out of prison and out of this situation of being Rackham's gladiator.
Absolutely. So another great choice by Chio Coker, the showrunner of the show, from another song from the band Gangstar that fits the episode perfectly. Well done.
And the video of the actual song is also two guys with chains wrapped around themselves fighting in a ring.
That's right. That's right. So good. Could possibly even a back reference to Luke Cage, which is quite cool. Chris, do you want to give us your final point?
Yes. My final point is I actually want to talk about the arena, the fights.
Right.
I think we covered it, but one part that kind of I was like, was the Rocky montage. Kind of like, come on. It was funny, and then it just continued. I was like, Apollo Creed Jr., I think is in the latest one, Creed.
Yes.
But yes, it's quite interesting to see the evolution of his fighting style. He showed that he had gusto, perhaps, in terms of he could lay a beat down on someone before entering the arena. The first 30, 60 seconds of his first fight, he gets knocked the hell out, nearly. And then he doesn't even get up, he just then starts doing his style, which is the heavy beats.
Yes.
I do wonder if this is where he also learned not to kill.
Interesting.
Because there was that one point where he was losing himself, and then he started hitting the guy, and he kept hitting, and there was blood, and then you see the two guards running over to try and pull him away. So he potentially probably nearly killed someone, and we don't know. Maybe he killed more people.
Maybe he did. Yeah, there's definitely a moment where he gets a guy around the neck and does that little snap motion that you've seen a few times. Don't know whether the guy's dead. Don't know whether the guy's injured or if he put him in a wheelchair or something. You don't see any of the repercussions that are happening here, but it's kind of suggested that some of these guys never made it back to their prison cells.
Yeah, that was a close one. Right? That it looked properly like he had snapped his neck.
Yeah. Definitely broke an arm on one of the other guys that was attacking him. So. Again, something we saw in episode 3 in the fight sequence that was in that episode where he was breaking arms all around him. So learning all these abilities in the prison, as I said. But yeah, I definitely do wonder if some of these guys made it out of that ring, because I'm not too sure. Luke looked like he was taking no prisoners in there anyway.
And I think that would be a nice bit where he now becomes this biblical Luke, and that's where he swears he will not do violence unto others.
Yeah.
Or not do death unto others. Violence is okay. Death, not so much.
Absolutely. I think that's the final points for the episode.
Yep.
Guys, any notes about the episode?
I have one note. There was a nice little nod to George R. Romero in this, which was where we saw when Luke is sitting there zombie-like in the recreation room, he's actually watching the original Night of the Living Dead with music and all, and howling included.
Yeah, I should have recognized it when I was watching the episode, because it is one of my favorite films. I think I've seen it hundreds of times. It's one of those movies that I just have on so often and didn't recognize it. I must have been writing a note at the time, but it's so recognizable. It's a scene when one of the characters is trying to fight off zombies with fire and pushing them back. So you could definitely tell that's what it was. Cool. Good
Yeah,
catch.
my other final note is I just wanted to put it out to you guys was the weird cut in terms of we're in the middle of a flashback and then they cut to Misty and the rest of them in the viewing room where they watch the CCTV of the rocket.
Yeah.
That was a very harsh cut, or was it me? It was just very, go to this and then cut back.
It felt like a little bit, but I know I thought they used the same kind of cut a couple more times throughout the episode. I thought the cutting between the past and the present, I actually did think it started off very jarring, but it felt sometimes the middle of a scene, it would drop back to Luke and Connie under the ground. It felt like you were in the middle of a scene in the past. And I think the same thing happened there, that it was kind of right in the middle of a scene. They kind of got all they needed out of the scene and then they just jumped back into the flashback.
It was very Lost in that sense, how Lost used to sort of go between different times late in the later seasons where it just suddenly jumped. Except with Lost, it felt like there was a flow.
Yeah.
Because it was the same characters or whatever, whereas this was to different characters. So yeah, I mean, it did kind of jolt a bit more. Yeah. Absolutely. The main things from that is that they're looking at the CCTV footage. There's obviously the moment where Raphael is, Misty, you go off and do this. I'll check on the video footage, presumably to get rid of it or to doctor it.
Oh yeah, he asked for hard copies.
Yeah. So,
or at least to pass it on to Cottonmouth. So Cottonmouth knows what's being seen. I have to say, I was so suspicious of him in this episode because of obviously what happened last episode. He's on the payroll of Cottonmouth. That the point when he's saying to Misty, "I'm going to go off and just see if that footage is there, and when we get back to the precinct, it'll be waiting for us." I thought he was just going to tell them to destroy all of the camera footage.
Yeah,
he doesn't though. So fair dues to him. Like he's still kind of working for the police and still kind of working on the right side. He doesn't destroy the footage, so she does get the opportunity to see the rocket flying in. But potentially he got rid of one camera that had a different shot with Cottonmouth firing the rocket. Potentially, he did say one of the cameras, the footage wasn't working, and the second camera, the registration plate was too fuzzy on it to be able to see whose car it was. So potentially he did do a bit of doctoring there. But we'll see probably in another episode.
And you see my point now about why it would have been better to hold off that reveal? Because that wouldn't have been stuck in your mind at all at this point. He would have been, he's just being he's a nice partner, he's helping out. And now it's like, what's he gonna, why is he doing that? That's evil. He's doing something bad. He's not a good guy.
But it gives us something to look deeply into in our episode.
True.
A couple of notes from me. Obviously, the meeting of Shades and Carl Lucas was really interesting to get to see this in this episode. You get to see Shades butting heads with Carl. He's got his huge beard and his huge hair, so that's possibly a reason why Shades didn't recognize him when he saw the clean head shaven, and goatee wearing Luke Cage in the earlier episodes. So that's possible. And then just the last one is that Reva's involved in the creation of Luke Cage. I thought that was quite interesting. That is a big change from the comic books. She's the one that sends him in to get the experiment done on her, to get him fixed using the machine. That's not the way it would happen in the comic book. He has no choice in this at all. In the comic books, it is that he's choosing to go in for the experiment so that he can get some part of his sentence cut off. So he is complicit in the experiment, but didn't realize how badly it was going to go. In this case, it's Reva going, Dr. Bernstein, you have to use it on him. He will die without you doing it. So
he'll die either way.
He'll die either way. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting that she's the one that's involved in it. She's the one that pushed for it.
Yeah.
Thought that was really interesting.
No, and I again, but this then goes back to our previous point so far in this episode. It's like, how involved was she overall in this? Because then this will be, could she be involved in Kilgrave? Could she have been involved in some other? It leads to some great rabbit hole.
Yep. And very interestingly, we may be discussing that in our feedback. John, do you have any final notes?
Yeah, I've got a few. I think, firstly, we have touched on it, but Comanche is introduced here. So we do have Thomas Q. Jones, a former NFL player for Arizona Cardinals. I really like the fact that at the start of this episode, we have Luke Cage in in prison, just been put in there saying, remember who you are, you're Carl Lucas. And by the end of it, he's forced to change his name to become Luke Cage. I think that's a really nice, sort of juxtapositional bookend, for this, episode. We also have him saying "Sweet Christmas" as he punches the wall and realizes that his hand can actually destroy brick, stone, and concrete. So we have his classic phrase here as well. And then, okay, actually, Dr. Bernstein is slightly more good guy than bad guy in this for me. To begin with, I thought he was quite mysterious. He's holding back. Even Luke Cage is saying, what's with this guy? But ultimately, him and Reva seem pretty tight here. And, he's willing to help, her out when Luke Cage is, fatally injured by Comanche and Shades. That's a proper beatdown with some pretty hard kit, in their hands.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kind of cool to see Comanche and Shades in here. They are two members of the gangs in the comic books that Luke ends off working with a little bit. Don't want to spoil the comic book storyline from 1974, 40 odd years ago. But yes, Comanche and Shades are both work together and are both known characters in the comic books, which is quite cool to see those two working together here. And I think it's possible because of how they've painted Burstein in here, Dr. Burstein in here, that we will see him in a future episode, potentially working in Harlem, or working with Luke Cage. So yeah, some good call outs there. But boys, I think it's time to step in the arena.
And deliver our verdict.
Yes. John, do you defend this episode of Luke Cage? Season 1, episode 4, Step in the Arena.
I really like this episode as an origin. I think whether it is fantastic or good, will be dependent on how some of the things thrown in here maybe play out over the rest of the series for me. I think there were a lot of questions asked in this, which sometimes, I don't know whether they were all necessary or whether they needed to be dropped just in this manner. I don't know. But I do defend this episode of Luke Cage. I'd give it 3 tiaras and cuffs out of 5.
Interesting.
I mean, there was a lot that I liked about this, and I think it would have been higher, if not for so much mystery. I think it really needs to deliver on the questions asked here. Otherwise, I think maybe it goes back for me. But I love the nod to the 1970s costume. Absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed the relationship between Squabbles and Luke Cage. Actually, more so than with Reva. I love seeing Shades and Comanche being really evil here, and including then the sadistic prison guard Albert Rackham. And I must say, he's even more intriguing now with Chris's theory that, is he Diamondback? Is it possible that this man who looked dead is potentially still alive? Because quite frankly, he looks like he could be a pretty vengeful guy. But again, just the whole mystery around Seagate, it is really kind of intriguing. As I say, I really like this episode, and it was great to see that Connie Genghis, or Genghis Connie, I know that's not her actual name, but it was great to see her alive and being rescued by Luke Cage. And the ending where he becomes Luke Cage is really good as well.
Can I just say quickly, the moment when Connie's husband was standing in front of the rubble and saying to Misty that he knows his wife was in the restaurant, just purely because John had said he hopes Connie isn't dead, and we were all kind of going, I think she is definitely gone. I felt so bad for her poor husband. I really was expecting him to just break down, because we'd said in the first episode, Connie wore the pants in that relationship completely. This guy looked like maybe he did the cooking, and that was it.
He's a great chef, okay? He made great dumplings.
And she did everything else, it looked like I was preparing myself for another big loss. So well done.
Yeah, and so I really liked how he turns around to say, I'm Luke Cage, but actually he's still hidden. He really is, because he's Carl Lucas. And I think that's a fantastic element to this. Okay, I'm saying a lot of great, loves, and fantastic, but I do think for me, that there's parts of this that it's great raising these questions, It really is. But this is a provisional 3 because I want to see them pay off. Because I hope they're not. I just hope they're not sacrificing Luke Cage's story for the price of the larger arc across the Defenders.
Yeah.
Even though that is good as well, but you know, that's all I mean. If this is the only flashback, it's a bit of a problem for me, but there are absolutely a ton of stuff in this that I love. But that's the only reason why I'm kind of just marking it down in my own mind and head. So, Derek, do you defend this episode of Luke Cage?
I'm definitely with you on it, but I think we've got loads of time left in the series to explore. I do defend it. What I really like about this episode is how they brought Reva in. This was something I was hoping to see because you have to cover it. You have to cover who Reva is and what the backstory is and the connection with Luke. I thought they played it really well. Doing it over such a long period of time while he's in prison really helped the idea of them building up trust and building up a relationship. It starts off with Luke not trusting anybody, not wanting to get involved in anybody, not even talking to anybody, and ends off with him sitting in a room with Reva, finally getting that first kiss with her, showing why the relationship, why the two of them would work together and would be together. I thought they did a really good job setting the two of them up. Also, obviously, bigger connections, some flashbacks to the 70s version of Luke Cage. Really great ideas. And yeah, we get some brand new characters in here like Squabbles, who we lose, unfortunately, by the end of the episode. Some really good choices in here. Overall, really do defend the episode and looking forward to more. That I'm sure we're going to get some more connections to this backstory of Luke. We've got a bunch more episodes to go, so I'm sure there's going to be more. Chris, finally, do you defend this episode of Luke Cage?
I do defend. I think pretty much for both reasons stated, but also I'm very much with John on this as well, is that I want the payoff. I can probably wait to maybe even Iron Fist for some of the payoff. Because we know that is coming next. So there probably will be some yellow thumb drive level of kind of connection, which will be hard to bring in, but they've done weirder things before. I'm happy to have known the Luke Cage MCU origin. It was good. It was faithful to a degree, while also threading this longer story. But I also like the fact that this was a refreshing pause to the Cottonmouth story, which I've already kind of said, how long can you put a gangster up against a guy with unbreakable skin and guns don't hurt? So potentially this is also, now we know how some other powered individuals may come along that could shades have been put through through these experiments and ended up with powers. Could Racken not be dead and be powered now instead as well? Could he be a Diamondback? I like this. We hopefully will get the payoff. I'm hoping. Yeah. We usually do get some form. They maybe just leave some threads open. But I think the key bit was it was a refreshing change. Maybe early, some might say, but like they could have waited to 5. Give us similar to Daredevil, we get the first part arc and then a second arc and then a third arc across the series. But this was good and okay, let's get it out of the way. Let's show you how this man was powered. But more, we got to know Luke and his personality. We got to know him when he was very despondent. He was a cop, so he follows the rules. That you can infer a lot of pieces on this, where if he was set up, it was something he didn't do, then that's why he would have a hate against the world. Yeah. This woman who he adores, called Reva, his wife, she brought him out of that. So yes, any woman who brings you out of that level of despair, you would revere them. You would always carry a photo of them in your bathroom mirror. They taught you how to survive again. So by inferring parts of this origin story into the larger knowledge of what we have of Luke Cage, it does come together quite nicely.
Absolutely.
My only bit is the death. They really are playing on the deaths with for this character.
Yes, they are.
More than anyone else. Yeah. Poor, Matt Murdock. He's an orphan, but he's up straight by 2. Yeah. But no. It's no. You get Luke beat you by 4 already, and he's just in his first episode.
Absolutely. Fair dues to Luke Cage, who didn't really call it out, but He's in an all-male prison, and he gets the only woman in there. This guy is just incredibly attractive or something. He's
It's
got
the
something.
abs.
It must
Yeah.
be.
Okay, yeah, we have some feedback. I'm going to go into it now. First, over in our group on Facebook. So in the spoiler post there, we had 2 bits of feedback. First from Debbie Fisher. Thank you, Debbie. I didn't like the hair and beard. Glad it was gone by the end of the episode. Smiley face. I liked finding out about his origin story. Well, thank you for that feedback.
No, I'm totally with you. I hate beards at the best of times, so I'm glad Luke got rid of his.
Hold on, I've got a beard. Come on.
How many years I've been trying to get you to shave that thing, Chris? It's hipstery.
I know.
I absolutely loved how his beard and hair got crazier and crazier as his time in prison progressed. I mean, completely agree. It was great that it was all shaved off by the end, his hair and his beard. You can see that Reva liked the fact that it was all shaved off as well. Presumably maybe he'd done his chest as well and a bit of gardening.
Well, the whole blade just goes all the way off.
Well, I have to say that is the cool thing. Like it's something I never even thought about. Can you think about what it would be like, guys, if you have to shave and you don't have to use any shaving cream or any products at all to keep your skin smooth? It's so you can just put a razor right against it and shave it perfectly because you don't have to worry about taking care of your unbreakable skin. How cool is that?
That's very cool. Yeah. But absolutely loved how it went crazier and crazier in the episode, but it was great that it was shaved off by the end.
Definitely.
I loved the bit where he had it all plaited back at one point for the first fight.
Yeah, that was quite cool, wasn't
And
it?
it was even called out by Reggie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he likes your hair tied back.
I also like that Reggie called out when was the last time you showered and cut your beard. Like, trying to take care of him, but not working.
So our next piece of feedback came from Dave Horrocks, and it's absolutely loved the costume callback to the comics. Can't believe they managed to pull off the tiara. Well, Dave, did they?
They did.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
But the chin strap. Back to the chin strap.
But they took off the chin strap.
Yeah, but they took that off, and he had the tiara, the yellow blouse, and the cuffs, and the beard.
He
Fantastic.
even said he looked like a damn fool.
Well,
He
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But that's an in-story reason why he doesn't dress like that all the time. So that's good. That's a good thing.
Totally with you, Dave, on that. Fantastic. And of course, actually, Debbie as well. It was having the origin. It was really good as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Debbie actually replied to Dave's comment as well and said, oh yeah, I thought that was so funny. The wristbands reminded me of Wonder Woman. Actually, didn't think about it, but yeah. Didn't
totally
he
see it.
used to use them to deflect things at one point?
Potentially. I can't really remember what he used them for.
Style.
Yeah, it's style. Because he had his pick your nose collars. He had his kind of flared boots as well. Like, he was fashionable.
Yes, it just couldn't have continued outside of the 70s, that's all.
No.
It's all coming back.
Fashion is cyclical, as they say. Our final piece of feedback comes from Cale Hensley, who sent an email in to us at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com, just like you can if you want to send us any detailed thoughts about the episodes. He starts off with, hey guys, thanks for taking the time to contemplate my message. Love the show. First off, episode 4 was amazing in all capital letters. Full-on 70s power man with the cuffs, tiara, yellow shirt, beard and chain belt. Just great. Although his fake hair and beard were quite absurd, says Cale. Anyways, I've had a theory since the end of Jessica Jones that ties most of the Defenders together that I feel took another big leap forward in this episode. The theory stems from the file JJ gets from Hellcat's mom near the end of the season with the letters IGH printed on the front. That's the yellow USB stick we've been talking about during this episode. I believe IGH is ultimately responsible for Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Luke Cage all getting their powers. It's more or less a proven fact that whatever they were hauling when Jessica Jones's family crashed into them was the source of her powers. I believe it could have possibly been another variation of the substance that Matt Murdock got in his eyes. I believe IGH is the private owner of Seagate Prison as well, and they were experimenting on the prisoners. The purpose of these experiments, as well as the mysterious substances, was to create the ultimate weapon. Who is always after the ultimate weapon, says Cale. The Hand. Yep. I think that not only is IGH responsible for at least 3 of our defenders gaining powers, but I also think the H in IGH may just stand for the Hand. As for the new evidence, we see in this episode Reva, Luke's future dead wife, has the thumb drive that was central to the Jessica Jones plot. That drive didn't just have dirt on Purple Man's origins, it had info about other neurological trials. Trials that most likely have something to do with IGH. What do you guys think? I wish I had Jessica Jones more fresh in my mind to provide stronger evidence and details, but I definitely don't think I'm grasping at straws. In fact, the part I doubt the most is that IGH and the Hand are connected. I sort of came to this conclusion after a while of considering everything and the fact that the Defenders are presumably facing off against the Hand in their series. Thanks, Kale.
Thank you, Kale, so much for that. Yeah, that's really interesting. I know that when we were podcasting on Jessica Jones, and certainly I think at the time the Inhumans were coming into S.H.I.E.L.D., so we wondered whether that was Inhuman growth hormone was IGH, but that being said, yeah, there's a lot of connections there with regards to Seagate, with regards to each of the Defenders we've seen so far. The H most definitely could stand for Hand. We know that the Hand in that Defenders promo at San Diego Comic-Con is there, grasping out, as we've said previously, at all of the Defenders. The ultimate weapon aspects to your theory as well. So it sounds really good and really plausible. And in fact, probably our Inhuman growth hormone is probably less probable, unless maybe that is the liquid being used by the Hand to try and bring about their ultimate weapon.
Maybe.
And maybe they think it is an Inhuman that is the ultimate weapon. So yeah, there's loads of different kind of angles that you could look at this from. So, I mean, I just can't wait to see what happens. And yeah, I'm totally with you. Like the whole 70s Power Man, as with the other feedback, perfect.
You've got my brain giggling.
Melted.
Yeah, melted. I just think about it. The power that Luke got was from a bath. So that bath could just be a bath of that fluid.
Yeah.
That was electrified and that kind of gave him the skin.
I really like this idea. I really do. Great job, Kel. And I know we've had a little bit of mentions of it throughout this podcast, but I can assure you we didn't actually read your feedback before the episode started. So it does kind of tie in with some of the things we were talking about in the full podcast as well. So, but really interesting to tie it all together right the way back to, Daredevil, getting blinded by by a liquid, which had never been shown what caused it. Nothing ever actually said it.
Yeah, there was the truck in front of Jessica Jones's parents' car, just before they crashed.
Yeah.
There's that. And then,
again, not completed in any of the 13 episodes. You didn't see the full crash, didn't see exactly what happened. So,
Yeah, so it's just maybe how
the Hand
and Iron Fist comes into this, because I think Iron Fist potentially is different.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you know,
3 of the 4.
3 of the 4, and you know, he is an ultimate weapon as well.
Yeah.
I agree with Kel. I think that the only bit I'm trying to figure out is the Hand. I don't think the H is the Hand. I think it's more probable that this is either, as you said, they are funding it to create kind of ultimate weapons.
Yeah.
Or the Hand is separated out of this, and this is more around potentially the Captain America Super Soldier Serum kind of recreation, and that's where all these baths, chemicals, experiments come from.
Yeah.
But the people behind these experiments could be the Hand and Hydra.
Absolutely.
Could be, oh my God, IGH. Hydra.
I think
we probably went there.
We
yes,
probably
we probably went
We
there.
have been
We
there.
have been there.
Yeah. No, we've definitely been
back
there.
then,
And
we're both.
Hydra is in the Immortal Iron Fist storyline, but I mean, not so much with Jessica Jones or Luke Cage's backstory, and certainly not sort of the earlier Iron Fist stories from what I remember.
And certainly not so much in the Marvel TV universe anymore.
No.
They're kind of gone. Hydra
Can
pretty
you
much
ever
gone.
kill Hydra?
Nope. Cut off a head and 2 more will take its place, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that is true. Or it could be International Group Hand.
It could be. Or the H could stand for Hogarth.
Or it could be Hammer.
Hammer time. Sorry.
Internationale Gruppe Hammer. It could be the Spanish
God, that
arm.
actually could be the
It
hammer.
could be the Spanish arm of or
Justin
the
Hammer's
French
organisation?
hammer. Maybe. Or the French hammer.
Loads of great ideas there. loads of not so great ideas as well.
But we certainly need some more time to think on this bombshell feedback. But it's a great theory, and I love it, because certainly in Jessica Jones we were wondering about the file and the yellow USB. And yeah, it sounds really, really good.
I love that you used your Mythbusters term as plausible. Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for your feedback, Kel, and thanks for everybody that sent in feedback. Again, you can pop in your feedback to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com, or you can leave a voicemail over on our website, defenderstvpodcast.com. No voicemails just yet, but we're only in the first weekend of recording our podcasts as we release them over the weeks. Some breaking news that we didn't know about when we recorded this episode is that we're going to be going to the cinema to go and see the Doctor Strange preview. It's 15 minutes of IMAX 3D footage. We'll be going to see that on the 11th, the day this podcast is released. So we're going to put out a bit of a spoiler-free discussion about that, the footage that's going to be shown at that event. And we'll be returning to Luke Cage next week on the 18th of October with Just to Get a Rep. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, can't wait.
Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening, and again, thank you so much for all the feedback. We'll be coming in your ears on the 14th of October.
Time to get out of the arena.
I'm gone. Bye.
Me too. Bye.
You think I'm holding back? You think I'm holding back? I'm out to save you.
Thanks for listening to Defenders TV Podcast, a TV podcast industries production. Our theme tune's provided by the wonderful Mississippi McDonald and the Cottonmouth Kings. If you want to help out the podcast and you've enjoyed listening to us, there's some really easy ways to do it. If you can share our episodes through your social media channels like Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, or Google+, that gets some extra listeners into us. If you want to leave us a review on iTunes or a rating, just leave a 5-star rating, click the button, or go to iTunes through defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes. We'll take you straight to our page and leave us a review or a rating there. That always helps out independent podcasts. And also, as always, we love to hear your feedback about the show's interaction with our audience is what we really, really love. So you can send us feedback to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.